Welcome to Knife Chats. If you like this video, please take a moment to leave a comment. Thank you. One of my viewers recently looked at my video on this Meadowlark 2 and commented that he's always thought about buying a Byrd or a Spyderco type knife, but wasn't crazy about how wide it was because of the hole in the blade. And it got me thinking, because I had been looking at picking up a Spyderco for years. I mean literally years, 5, 6, 7 years as much. And the same thing was stopping me from doing it because of how wide that looks. And so I thought what I would do is actually do some measuring on this and then compare it to a few other knives, some bigger, some smaller, and then let you think about it for a bit, because is it really that big? First of all, if you notice here, if you can see there, it is right at 1.5 inches. From here to here is 1.5 inches. From, so at its widest point, 1.5 inches. The knife is only 4 inches long, but 1.5 inches from there to there. So that is kind of wide. That's over 25% of the height. Almost like 1/3 of the height of the knife is the length of the knife. Now when you open it up, that blade is only 3 inches tall, or 3 inches long, and once again the width is about 1 inch, so about 1/3 from here to here. So 1 inch this way, 3 inches this way. Is that really that big though? Let's compare this Meadowlark 2 to a few other knives. First up, the 111mm German Army knife by Victorinox. Now let's look at the length of the two. You're looking at 111mm, so 4 3/8 of an inch, versus 4 inches. So it's a slightly longer knife, but if you notice height-wise, notice how those holes are lining up. Let's turn it around here. Notice again how those holes line up. Height-wise, they're actually about the same. It really is crazy that they are almost about the same. The Spyderco is just slightly higher depending on how you're holding it, but if you get them flat on, those holes line up perfectly, and the bottom of them are also lined up. Let's open the blades up. Let's pop this open real quick and get a ruler behind it there. And if you can't tell there, it's right at 1 inch. I mean, the width from top to bottom is 1 inch. So if we get the Meadowlark right next to it, see if we can do this here. Notice when you line up those holes, you can't even see the Meadowlark behind it. Flip it around here. I'm gonna have to, how am I gonna do this? All right, Meadowlark in front now. Lining up, you can see obviously the blade on the German Army knife is longer, but when you line up the holes, the height is the same, truly about the same. So height-wise, these two knives are about the same height, even though this one does not seem to be look as high when you have the knife all closed up, and it's mainly because of the contrast of the metal and everything, and also the shape of the handle. So the blade on the German Army knife is slightly longer, but it's just as proud as what you have on the Meadowlark 2. So if you're looking at worrying about how wide this knife is, it's no wider than a German Army knife. Let's take a look at a different one now. Let's look at the Kershaw Shuffle compared to this. Okay, so Kershaw Shuffle, most people consider this a very small knife. Let's get it here, if I can get it lined up. So lengthwise, it's just over 3.5 inches long compared to 4 inches long. And how wide is it? If you notice here, it's almost 1 1/4 inches, a little over 1 1/4 inches, about 1 3/8 inches. So compared to 1.5 inches on the Spyderco. Let's line these up and you'll see what I'm talking about. Notice how that is. We've got the tops of the knives in the same place. Bottom is running along, and look at the Kershaw shuffle compared to the Byrd Meadowlark. Flip it around and we'll see here. Notice how it's all lining up. Now let's compare the two blades. Let's get the measurement on the Meadowlark. I'm sorry, on the little Kershaw shuffle. It's so seeing there, it's about a little over 2¼ inches, and width-wise, imagine that, it's over 1 inch wide. So when we open up the Meadowlark, let's see how that looks compared to the two. Yeah, you notice the you can see the top of the Kershaw there, and obviously it's not nearly as long, so the Kershaw is actually wider, slightly wider blade, and a shorter blade. Let's get it lined up with where you can put in the finger choil there. It's a shorter blade, got a different cut to it, but just as wide, and this is a smaller knife, the Kershaw Shuffle, compared to the Meadowlark 2. So there you have that too. Let's just compare it to a 4.5 inch lockback, very common lockback. So here's the Rough Rider Highland bowie. I'm sorry, Rough Rider Highland lockback, and you see it's right at 4.5 inches long, and width-wise, right at wow, about 1.25 inches or so. Yeah, about 1.25 inches. So let's get the Meadowlark behind there. Now, you see it barely, just slightly above there. Just slightly above there. Turn it around here. Yeah, get them lined up again. Yeah, when you rock them back and get the blade going in the same direction, yeah, obviously you can see it. The Meadowlark 2 is slightly above, But let's open the blades up and see what it looks like. I'm going to line up the cutting edge of the blade this time, and you'll see right there that the Meadowlark has the hump. You can see a little bit of it there. If we flip it over, lining up the bottom, you can see how much it pops up. So if you're looking at just a 4.5 inch lockback, yeah, the Meadowlark is going to be slightly taller when you're, it's going to be a little proud there. But you have the advantage of easy opening with the one-hand opening. So there you have it. There's looking at the, oh, let's look at another one here. This is a Easy Out by Gerber. Let me just close the Meadowlark and we'll put those two next to each other. And you see there, I don't know if you can tell that, but it's hiding behind there. Let's do it this way. Yeah, just barely a little bit above there. So the Gerber, yeah, it comes in at 1.5 inches also, but it does seem that the Meadowlark does pop up just a little bit above there. Let's open the two blades and see how it works. So when you line up the holes, you do see that the Meadowlark is slightly above. Not much, but slightly above. Let's flip this over. Try and not cut myself here. I don't know if you can tell there, but I would say it's about maybe 1/4 inch higher than the Easy Out, Gerber Easy Out, which has the flattened hole as opposed to a larger hole in there. And the Gerber Easy Out works pretty well, and actually it's kind of similar to your Spydercos before they were Spydercos. So there you have it. That's really how much higher that hole is. It really is not that much larger than what you see on like a German Army knife or even the Kershaw Shuffle. The Kershaw Shuffle in some ways is wider and not nearly as effective as the Meadowlark 2. So if the reason you were thinking about not getting one of these is because of how wide the blade is, when you start comparing it to other knives, it really isn't that much wider. So, and you really can't tell that until you actually hold it in your hands and play with it for a little bit. And then you start realizing it's not nearly as large as you thought it was. Anyway, that's my take when I started comparing knife to knife. Hope that helps for anyone out there who's thinking about buying like a Meadowlark or a Spyderco, but was just thinking it's too wide for the pocket. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Knife Chats, and if you did, please like and share it with your friends. Comments are always welcome. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode of Knife Chats is up online. Thanks again. Hope to see you soon.